Summer Park Church. Come on, we invite you to stand up and worship with us today. Eyes wide, I'm set on you. You made a road in the wild, standing on ancient truth. I'm pressing on with my back to the past, and oh, let the young see visions of the future. And I say, oh, let the old dreams. Okay, come on, sing it out. In my world, I do a new thing. I know you're moving. In my world, chain reaction and holy passion. Shine with you, bursting like heaven in ocean. Jesus, you make me new. I'm pressing on with my back to the past. Oh, let the young see visions of the future. Oh, let the old dreams. Let's go. In my world, do a new thing, I know you're moving. In my world, chain reaction, holy passion. Come on, sing it out, sing the old life, let's go. The old life is gone. It's a new day. It's a new day. Round where I belong. It's a new day. It's a new day. The old life is gone. It's a new day. It's a new day. Round where I belong. It's a new day. It's a new day. Let's go. Come on, sing it out. In my world, I do a new thing. I know you're moving. In my world, a chain reaction with holy passion. In my world, I do a new thing. I know you're moving. In my world, a chain reaction with holy passion. The old life is gone. It's a new day. It's a new day. Found where I belong. It's a new day. It's a new day. The old life is gone. It's a new day. It's a new day. Found where I belong. It's a new day. It's a new day. Yeah. Well, again, welcome and good morning. Welcome to Summer Park Church. We want to take a quick moment. So worship is our opportunity to show love to a God that loves us unconditionally. So notice I said this is our opportunity. So we're not here just to sing a concert for you guys or to put on some amazing performance. That's not what we're doing. We're here to worship and praise our God together today. So we're going to sing a couple more songs. The next song in particular talks about that love that Jesus had for us. And it tells a story about how he died on that cross and gave us that free gift of grace as he did that. So as we continue to worship, I want to invite you all to sing along with us. Let's lift up the name of God in this place today and watch him do a work in your life.
darkness we were waiting without hope, without lift your hands and sing praise the Father? And praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Oh, sing praise the Father, praise the Son, and praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. In the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. Come on, sing it out. And the church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, and praise the Spirit, three in one. And God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Sing praise, praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
Come together, strange as neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. Come on, lift your heartbeat. So don't let your heart be troubled. Just hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Just fix your eyes on this one truth, God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where help comes from. Hey, oh, 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 Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, light of heaven, reign forever. His kingdom come. Don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head high, don't fear. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember that our help comes from God. Lift your voice, sing out. Church, lift up the name of Jesus. There's nothing too hard for our God. No matter what you're going through today, trust and believe. There's someone God that's bigger than this situation. Someone God loves you. Swing wide, oh you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeats the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, goodbye. His name is Jesus. Come on, every voice lift up His name. Swing wide, oh you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeats the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, goodbye. His name is Jesus. Come on, let's go sing it out. Sing swing wide, oh you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeats the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, goodbye. His name is Jesus. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, our heaven, reign forever. His kingdom.
Amen. Can we give God praise this morning? Wow. Isn't it always great to start the morning with worship? To know that you can have your spirit lifted high, be refreshed as you step into God's presence. So family, be reminded that when we worship, it's this beautiful exchange between you and God. We can come in with anything weighing us down in our hearts, anything on our minds, fear, anxiety, and worry. And as we send that up through praising and singing, we have a God who desperately loves you where you're at, who wants to reach you no matter where you're at. Come down and tear down those walls and replaces that with more of Him. So imagine today, you probably came in with a little bit of stress from a busy schedule. When you send that up through singing and praising, God tears that down and replaces that with rest. Whenever you come in with a little bit of a it's all about me attitude. It's all about my inwardness. When you lift that up through singing and praising, God breaks that down and gives you the capacity to serve. Let's say you're worried about the moment or tomorrow. Don't worry. Because when you worship, God breaks that down and gives you hope for tomorrow. So I want you to think about something that you can lift up to God. Because once we go back into this worship song, we're gonna sing. So all across this room, can you lift up your needs to God? And as our praise goes up, so do our voices. Let's sing this out.
Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath repeats the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath repeats the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus.
Amen. Let's give God one more round of praise this morning. You guys look so cute this morning. Welcome, we're glad that you're here. Before you have a seat, turn to that neighbor, greet them, and be seated.
All right, good morning. You guys feeling good? You are looking good this morning. Duro, you were right. They're looking good. Cute. Good. Anyway, welcome to Summit Park Church. So glad that you guys are joining us for the 10 a.m. Are you guys ready to go today? I know, I am ready. I've had my coffee. I am just pumped and ready. You got your coffee? Working on it? Okay, all right, we're good. Well, welcome to Summit Park. Glad that you're here. If it's your very first time, we just want to welcome you. We're glad that you're here. You're checking out Summit Park at this 10 a.m. service. And really, it's our hope and it's our prayer that when you leave service today, that you're encouraged and that you are just built up in your faith. And we say this all the time, but church is family. That's what it should be. And we love helping you with your next steps, taking them and being a part of the family here at Summit Park. So the very first step in getting connected is to fill out an info card. Can everybody say info card? Info card. The info card, it's in the seat back right in front of you. You can fill that out, put it in the offering buckets when it comes by in just a little bit, or you can text information right there to the number on the screen. We'll be following up with you, helping you with those next steps. We also have a guest tent. It's right outside the front doors. We've got hosts that are ready to get to know you a little bit and give you a free gift. So if you haven't been to the guest tent, head on out there. And speaking of connecting, we've got Connect Night, and it is tonight. Woo! I know. I love Connect Nights. They're amazing. They're awesome. Amazing. So you get to hear about all the different life teams and volunteer opportunities here at the church. And we've got amazing life teams here at Summit Park. They are just rolling out the red carpet for every single person. They are helping build the church. You probably saw them in the parking lot as you came in the kids area. We've got so many amazing volunteers here at the church. They're just helping everyone have a great experience. And I wanted to share a story that Andrea wrote in about her experience here. And this, we're gonna have it up on the screen, I think. Yep. So Andrea says this: a friend asked me to come to Summit Park for Mother's Day, and I've been coming ever since. It is true that the red carpet treatment is experienced at Summit Park. Everyone is welcoming, and it's a relief to know that there is no judgment, that everyone is welcome. How awesome is that? Great job, life teams. Give it up for our amazing life teams. Life team members, you are helping people get connected to Jesus. So if you are not on a life team, I want to encourage you, join the team. There's nothing like it when you find your sweet spot. You're using your gifts to help other people. Come to Connect Night tonight. Like I said, 6 o'clock right here at our North Campus. It lasts just a little over an hour. We're going to give you some free food. We're going to take care of your kiddos. It's going to be a great time. All you've got to do is text CONNECT to the number on the screen. If you want more information, you can also head out to the info bar. And then next weekend, say next weekend. It's Vision Weekend, guys. Oh my goodness. I'm just thrilled and I am pumped. This is gonna be an amazing weekend. We get to share the heart and the vision for this year. We get to celebrate all that God did in 2019 and share what He's put on our hearts for 2020. You wanna be there, and then you wanna invite somebody else, a friend, to come with you. And then make sure that you like and share any social media posts to help get people here. You're not gonna want to miss next weekend for Vision Weekend. Well, as our hosts get ready for our tithe and Kingdom Builders offering, I just wanna thank you. Thank you so much for your giving. When you give, you are changing people's lives. So thank you. There's 3 ways that you can give. You can give right there at your seat. There's an offering envelope in the seat backs in front of you. You can fill it out, put it in the offering buckets when they come by in just a little bit. You can also text to the number on the screen, or you can go online to summitparkchurch.com. Well, we're gonna watch some video announcements on the screen, and then Scott is gonna be up here as we are wrapping up our Big Win series. Thank you guys for being here this morning.
Welcome to Summit Park Church. I'm Zach.
And I'm Andrea. We're so glad you're here.
And we have so many ways for you to get involved here at Summit Park Church. Here are a few things that you can be a part of. Hey, if you're new to Summit Park or you haven't been to a welcome party yet, we would like to personally invite you to come check one out.
Welcome parties are one of our favorite nights. They are fun and laid-back events where we get to know you and your family. Plus, we partake in the best KC barbecue around,
Jack Stack!
And it's free!
We'll have free childcare and dinner for the kiddos too. The next welcome party is March 1st at 6 p.m. Get signed up at the info bar today. For our upcoming First Wednesday Worship and Prayer Night, we are going mad for March Madness in Summit Park Kids. All kids can wear their favorite jerseys, and we'll have popcorn, Gatorade, and other fun prizes and basketball activities. It's all happening March 4th at 7 p.m.
This is the night for the whole family. At both our North and South campuses, there will be powerful worship, and we'll pray and take communion together. We can't wait to see you there.
What's up, church? How we doing, everybody? Let's try that one more time. Dum, 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 dum. What's up, church? How we doing, everybody? There we go. Come on. What's up? Man, do you have that drum beat memorized yet? Like, is that just like in you and you're just pumped up because you've been listening to it for, 8 or 12 or 16 weeks now that we've been in this series since the beginning of the year. But man, it has just been great talking about the Big Win, and I'm really glad that all of you are here. I want to take a minute. I want to welcome everybody who is watching online right now. And of course, everybody who's over at the South Side, South Campus. Come on, North Campus. Can we give it up to everybody who's watching? Love you. And I love all of you guys here today. And before we jump into our content, I want to just give a little plug and encouragement to come back next weekend. If you didn't feel that Vision video trailer, then something's wrong with you, because like that was just powerful and a lot of bass was in there. So it was really amazing. And it's going to be awesome next weekend. We are going to celebrate what God did in 2019 and look forward to all that he has for us in 2020. And I just want to encourage you to be here. Bring a friend. You will be glad that you did. It is going to be, I don't know how else to describe it, fire. All right, so it's just going to be fire. So tell someone next to you, say, it's going to be fire. Just tell someone, it's going to be fire, because it is. It is. And then after that, after Vision Weekend, we are jumping into a brand new series that I am so excited about. We're going to be talking about our identity in God. And we're going to, so the name of the series is Who Do You Think You Are? And I want to encourage you to be here for every single week of this series, because who you are in God and who you think you are in God is really one of the most important things you could ever think. And it really determines everything about not only the way you approach God, but really the way you approach everybody else and everything else in your life. Your identity in God is one of the most important things. So be here a couple weeks from today. It's going to be incredible. Well, we're wrapping up our series called The Big Win. And man, this has just been a great series. And if you're new, we've been talking about this reality, how there is a difference between winning big and finding the big win. And there really is. And I think it's especially important to address this at the beginning of the year, because if we're not careful, we'll get into habits, we'll get into patterns, not just at the beginning of the year, but really all throughout the year, where we're chasing after things that we think, or what the world would say, is winning big, but really it doesn't help us find the big win. And what we've used as a frame of reference is the rocking chair. All right, so we had a rocking chair out here for the first couple of weeks and a couple of weeks throughout the series. And we've been talking about how a tendency for us is just to live for this moment and not be thinking about the moment that will happen really once we're almost done with this life and about to cross into the next life. And how when we're in that rocking chair moment, how we're going to think differently. There are going to be different values that we have. There are probably going to be different mindsets. We're going to be thinking, man, I wish I would have given my life to, and we've filled in the blank. What are the things that are going to matter at that moment? And giving attention to those things right now in this moment, so that every moment in between now and then has meaning. And it's just been something that's really been helpful. And we've been looking at what Paul says in Philippians chapter 3, because he's breaking down some really good principles. And he says this, but whatever word gains to me, everybody say gains. Come on, strongly. Come on, everybody say gains. Whatever word gains to me. Pause for a moment. The Apostle Paul, right before this, the context of this chapter is that he is telling us all the things that he's done that you wish you had done. All the things that he's better at than you. And he's walking us through this. It's the ultimate one-upping. He's saying, hey, whatever you can do, I can do better. And the reason he's doing it is not to make us feel bad, but for us to understand that chasing after a lot of the things that we think are going to get us where we want to go doesn't get it done for us. So he says, whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. He says, I'm having this clarifying moment. I've had this clarifying moment where I realize what's really important. He says, what is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. He says there's really one thing that really matters in life. There's one thing that is the ultimate win, and it's not found in chasing after gains. It's found in chasing after God. And so we've been talking about, the big idea for this series has been, we find the big win in life when we pursue a vibrant relationship with the living God. And so we've been unpacking, okay, that's great. How do you actually do that? And that's what this whole series has been. We've been talked about fasting. We've talked about prayer. We've talked about reading the Bible and getting a Bible plan and getting into the scriptures. We've talked about community. We kicked off season 1 of life groups, and it's been amazing. It's going so great. Being in community, developing relationship. Last week we talked about rhythm in our life. We talked about work and rest and finding the hustle and flow. And if you've missed any of those messages, I want to encourage you, go online, check them out, because man, this is really, I've been doing this Christianity thing for a long time, and I can promise you this, when we do this stuff right here, you are going to experience the abundant life that Jesus talked about. Like, it's just true. When you give yourself to pursuing God and experiencing Him, you're going to experience what Jesus talked about. It's real, it's available, it's here. And when we give ourselves to that, when we get to the rocking chair, we're going to be really glad that we did. All right, now we're wrapping up this series. We're bringing it in for a landing, and we're talking about this. Now that you are experiencing it, now that God's doing some stuff in your life, I'm not talking about perfect. I'm not talking about everything's just gravy, but I'm talking about you're moving forward in Jesus. You're starting to experience that abundant life. Now, what do you do with it? What do you do next? And here is the key. This is, I think, one of the most important keys of Christianity is figuring this out. And it's this. Are you ready? Are you with me? Are you ready for this? This is the secret. This is the game changer. Do you want to know? All right. Am I building intrigue? Okay, I'm hoping. Okay, so now that you have it, guess what you do with it? You give it away. Once you get all that God is doing in your life, and once you understand what's really happening in this thing called the world and Christianity, you give it away. You give it away. You give it away. You give it away. You give it away now, all right? So if some of that, I'm sorry. That was inspiration. I can't say it's from God. It's not in my notes. But you give it away. What's the point of experiencing the big win? It's sharing it. Sharing it. Just ask the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, right? Come on. Now, we didn't know they were going to find the big win of the Super Bowl when we started this series, but we had hopes, right? We were hoping that they would. And man, it was just perfect. The timing, the way the messages have interwoven with each other, it's been great. So here's the thing that happens when you have the big win, right? You share it. What was the first thing they did? They shared it. Well, they went to Disney World, or at least Patrick Mahomes went to Disney World. But then they all got together and they shared, right? Like the parade that happened a few weeks ago. Let's show a couple of pics from the parade. You guys, look at that. Just so much fun. Look, with the fans intermixing, just sharing the moment there. And there's Patrick Mahomes. He's going skiing later, apparently, because he's got those ski goggles on. And then the next picture is, man, just looking strong with the WWF belt. I mean, that is just incredible. You can take the pictures down for a second. Now, how many of you know this is what teams do, right? They take the win that they've had and they share it with their fans. Like, that's just what, now the Chiefs did it and that was really nice, but how many of you know every team does this? I don't know, do we have pictures of the last couple Super Bowls? Let's just, it's the Patriots. I forgot, that's 2019. Okay, what about 2018? There's the Eagles. Any Eagles fans? Nope. Okay, moving on. It's the Patriots again in 2017, and the crowd boos. And then the Broncos. Okay, what about 2015? What about, it's the Patriots again. I'm sorry, I just like to live vicariously through these moments because I'm a Lions fan, okay? The Lions fans have never had a Super Bowl parade because we've never won a Super Bowl. We've never actually been to the Super Bowl. We don't even know what bowls look like in Detroit. We just have plates full of losing seasons. But how many of you know one day maybe we will be able to celebrate with the parade? And when we do, if we ever do, we will celebrate with the parade and share it with everybody else because that's what you do. How many of you know that every quarterback who's ever won a Super Bowl says the following: "This one is for the fans of our great city." That's every Super Bowl winning quarterback ever says that. no quarterback ever says this one, that's all for me. I did this all by myself, and man, do I deserve this trophy. I can't wait to go celebrate. Just me, myself, and I, says no Super Bowl winning quarterback ever. How many of you know that's just not the way it happens, right? When a great moment is had, it's meant to be shared. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're experiencing something that's really, really great? What do you want to do? Even if you're by yourself, like there's a perfect stranger next to you and you're like, I don't know you, but isn't this awesome? Like that's just the way that it goes because the best moments are meant to be shared. Do you know that we are made to share? Like it's intrinsic. Like God made us with this. In fact, right from the beginning, Jesus, in Jesus' ministry, he's trying to get the disciples to see how important this mindset is because he knows our tendency. He knows our tendency is to make life more about us and about getting more. And he says, I want you to understand what this whole thing's about. In John chapter 15, he's about to go to the cross. And he's landing the plane of this ministry, and he's helping his disciples understand what the whole point is. And watch what he does in John chapter 15. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches, and if you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Now, how many of you just wave at me at both locations? You want to bear fruit. Just wave at me, all right? Like, you just want to bear fruit. That sounds like a good idea. Sounds like kind of the point of this thing. Okay. And he says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, I love the picture that he's using here. Think about this for a moment. He says, I want you to bear fruit. And he says, I'm the vine, you're the branches, and if you separate from me, you're not going to bear fruit. Now, he's the vine, right? Where are the branches, right? And does the vine need the fruit? No, the vine's fine. Like the vine is plugged in. The vine's plenty of nourishment. Do the branches need the fruit? No, the branches are connected to the vine. Who needs the fruit? Everybody else. Do you see how that works? Do you see how Jesus, right from the beginning, is trying to get no, this thing that I'm doing in you is not meant just for you. It's meant for you to share and to give away to others. Jesus is constantly trying to get his disciples to see this. He says in Matthew chapter 10, he sends them out. He says, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received. Come on, everybody say this with me. Freely give. Now that you have, don't just keep getting more. He says, I want you to give it away. Do you know this has been the whole theme throughout the whole Bible? Like right at the beginning, God creates Adam and Eve, and he puts them in Eden. And it's this amazing experience, and you'd be like, it's man, it's woman, it's God. Can't get any better than this, right? And our tendencies be like, us four no more. Let's just keep it all to ourselves, Jesus. And God says, no. Now, fill the earth and subdue it. He says, multiply. He says, go and share what you've experienced and bring it to others. This continues all the way to the messianic promise in Genesis 12 to Abraham. When God has this relationship, he says, all right, now here's the deal, Abraham. I'm going to do something great in your life. I'm going to raise you up. I'm going to bless you. And everybody wants this promise. Everybody wants to experience this. Watch what he says. Verse 2. He says, I will make you into a great nation and I will bless you. Sounds good. Bring it. Yeah, I would like that. I will make your name great. I will lift you up. I will bless you. What does it ultimately culminate in? And you will be a blessing. He says, I'm blessing you, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to be a blessing to other people. In fact, all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now, who fulfills that? Jesus, right? Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment of that. And then Jesus, when he shows up, he is a blessing. Everywhere he goes, man, did he ever fulfill that? He shows up and he could have easily said, all right, I'm here, boom. Y'all just worship me, bow right now. Like he could have done that. But he shows us what God is like, and he doesn't come to be served, but what does he come to do? To serve. He comes to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. In fact, God so loved the world that he gave. Do you see the continual theme here? Like, it is undeniable that God was generous. In fact, Jesus viewed his greatest gain as being generous and giving his life, didn't he? And so the same is true for you and I. You and I are going to experience the most gains in life. Whatever gains you want to make, whatever gains you are supposed to make in this life, they're going to start when we understand that our job isn't just to get more, but it's to give more. Your gains will happen when you give. Let me just say that's why we love the stories of the heroes who give sacrificially, don't we? Like in society, comic books, movies, we love Iron Man, Spider-Man, Superman, like Wonder Woman, like all the people who give of themselves to sacrifice for. We love those people, right? One of my favorites is Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings. I mean, he's the ultimate hero, though, isn't he? I mean, there's lots of heroes in Lord of the Rings. I mean, you have Aragorn. You have Frodo to a degree. We can talk after service if you want to do a deep dive on this, but you have Samwise. Oh, there's a picture of him right there. Now, here's the context of that picture. Frodo's going up the mountain. Mount Doom is going to destroy the ring, and he can't go any further. He's out, and Samwise looks at him and says, "You may not be able to carry it, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry it for you. I can carry you." And he puts him up on his back, and he starts carrying him, and it's this amazing moment, and it's like, oh, yeah, you're like, yeah, and I cry every time I watch it. It's beautiful. And isn't there just a little bit of Sam inside of all of us that says, man, I want to give my life to help other people? Like, you have that. But do you know who else you have inside of you? This guy. This is who else you have inside of you. It's true. It's true, right? That's the whole point of the movie, is this dichotomy. You don't want to share. You're precious. I see this with my own kids sometimes. It's sad, but true. Like with the last pizza, you know? And like they've already had plenty. And I'm like, do you really need this? This is my own. My precious. Like I won't say it, but I think it. Or even my wife sometimes, like she'll want like, you know, the last bite of Andy's. And I'm like, come on now. Didn't you get, this is, you know, you were right there. You didn't want it. Like I find myself doing that. The only person that I won't be stingy with is my 2-year-old daughter, who she's obsessed with gum right now. So she'll come up, she'll see me chewing gum, and she'll be like, I want gum. And I'll be like, sure. You know, I mean, it's like, true story. And it grosses my wife out every time. But have you noticed how stingy we can be? Can't we be stingy? We want to be Sam, but we find ourselves being Gollum, right? We find ourselves in this moment. How do we change this? How do we change this? We have to change our perspective. We have to stop living to get and start living to give. Now, that's a great place for an amen, so I will repeat that statement. Like, we need to stop living to get and start living to give. Like we do, we got to get it in us. The biggest win is that once you've had the win, is then to give the win away. Like to give what God's doing, to give what God has given you, give it away. Now, before you start getting real nervous because you're like, oh no, the preacher's going to start talking about money. They're going to take an offering. Where are those buckets? Honey, hide. You know, like, I mean, just before you get nervous, we're not taking an offering at the end of the service. I don't think God's after your money. I think God's after way more than that. I think he's after you. I think God wants you. He wants you to stop living for yourself and realize that the ultimate fulfillment of everything that he's doing in you and has done in you isn't just to get more. And man, we have our own Christian versions of this, don't we? I just got to go to another conference. I just got to get another book. I just got to feed me, another group, another club, more. Call him. It's the same. We just Christianize it. And instead of partnering with God to bring his hope to the world, we just accumulate more stuff. We got to change the way we go about this thing. And so I want to give you two. The only way we're going to do this is by changing the way we view generosity. So I want to give you two fundamental convictions that will help us be more generous, all right? So I'm going to just two fundamental convictions, and then we'll have some application, an inspiring story at the end, and then we'll pray, all right? So we're going to jump in. Before we do, I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, hey, the more you give, the more you live, all right? Just tell someone the more you give, the more you live. All right, so how are we going to get this in us? Let me give you two fundamental convictions. First one is this: more doesn't mean better. More doesn't mean better. John D. Rockefeller was worth hundreds of billions of dollars at his peak. And he was quoted as being asked this question. He was asked this question. And the question was, hey, John, how do you know when you've ever had enough? Like, how much money is enough? And his response was, just a little bit more. Now, we don't know for sure if he said that or not, but I can tell you this, a lot of us live like that. Isn't it true? A lot of us live like, if it's just a little bit more, if I could just have a little bit more, if I could just get a little bit more, then it'd be okay. And the reality is, we live in one of the most materially blessed time, if not the most materially blessed time in all of history. We have more stuff, more often, more fast than ever before. Like, it's now, and we've got more information than ever before. And yet, it's leaving us more dissatisfied than ever before. Could it be that more doesn't mean better? There was an article in the Washington Post last year that talked about how we are getting increasingly less happy. Now, track with this. I'm going to put it on the screen, but you can follow along. On a scale of 1 to 3, where 1 represents not too happy, and 3 means very happy, Americans on average give themselves a 2.18, a hair above pretty happy. That's a significant decline from the nation's peak happiness as measured by the survey of the early 1990s. All right, so that's when we peaked in our happiness. Probably because of Seinfeld and Doc Martens and flannel and Pearl Jam. I don't know. But the change is driven by the number of people who say they're not too happy. 13% in 2018 versus 8% in 1990. That's more than a 50% increase of people who are saying that they're at the bottom rung of the happiness scale. Why? Why? Because more doesn't mean better. Do you know, like, I think we find ourselves living in a perpetual state of Christmas morning. Like, that's just how we live. Like, have you ever seen kids, maybe parents or grandparents, or if you have a niece or nephew, you see a kid, little kids, especially on Christmas morning, they just see all the presents and they're just like in this euphoric state of Christmas. And they just start opening presents and they won't even look. Have you ever seen them? They won't even look at the present they just opened because they're on to the next one. All they see is all the other ones they haven't opened yet. Have you ever seen that? You're like, no. In fact, Jen and I are like, no, you're going to look at that present. Who gave you that present? It was your dad. Why don't you come give me a hug? We're going to talk about 20 minutes about that present, what you plan to do with that present. What are the goals with that present? Before we move on to the rest of the presents, we're going to appreciate this present. We've literally started doing that. But this is us. Like, this is us. We just live in this perpetual state of on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And it's not making life any better. Can I tell you, that's what the Apostle Paul is keying in on in our passage for this series. He's like, these gains that you think you're making, it's not making your life any better. And maybe some of you, as we've been in this series, you've been thinking about, maybe the biblical scholars, you've been thinking about an Old Testament version of this. An Old Testament version that parallels Paul's life, and it's King Solomon. King Solomon. If he were around today, his wealth would have been in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Some people estimate $2.2 trillion is what he would have been worth. And not only would he have been worth so much money, but the comparison between what he was worth and would have been worth and everybody else couldn't have been more great. Like, it was just like nobody came even close to him. And so he has all this money and all this resource, and you know what happens? He got bored. In Ecclesiastes chapter 2, he says this, I said to myself, come now, I'll test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? Ecclesiastes is not a great book to read if you're not feeling really good about life, okay? It's just not, but if you are looking for meaning, it is. He says this, I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I didn't, and then you skip down to verse 10, he talks about all the things that he did in between. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had told to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind, and nothing was gained under the sun. It's very interesting that he uses that idea, that phrase, chasing after the wind, because it's pretty foolish, right? When you think about it. Who would ever chase the wind? I mean, have you ever seen someone chasing the wind? Wouldn't it be just weird if you're driving home on 470 today and you see someone just kind of doing this in the median? Like, wouldn't that be weird? Yeah, you'd call the police. But how many of you know this is what we do? This is what we do. This is what Solomon's saying. He's like, it's just chasing after wind when I think that something that isn't meant to fill my soul is going to fill my soul. He'll go on in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. He says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. How much more stuff do we need to have to prove to us that value isn't found in getting more stuff? Even value isn't found in getting more Christian experience. Do you know where value is found? In giving it away. Giving it away. So the answer to that question, what are we going to do? How are we going to overcome this? It's the generous life. Because the generous life is the full life. See, the only way we're going to move from Gollum to Sam is if we have a fundamental reshifting of our priorities. Is living just to get, or is living to give? Is a win to get more, or is a win to give more? Is a win to accumulate, or is the win to facilitate? Is a win to be blessed, or is a win to be a blessing? Here's the truth. The win is to be a blessing. I just want, like, if you're a Christian, like, I'm just like, you know, if you're not following Jesus, then man, I understand you're just going to pursue your own stuff. You'll still experience the principles of generosity because they still work. But if you're a Jesus follower, then I want to tell you your win is to be a blessing. Your win is to be a conduit of this. Everybody say this with me. Say, I'm blessed. Come on, everybody say, I'm blessed to be a blessing. Say it again, I'm blessed to be a blessing. Turn to the person next to you, say, I'm blessed to be a blessing. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Because it's true. Why is it true? Because you're made in the image of God. You're made in the image of God, and you're made to become more like God. 2 Corinthians chapter 3 says this, and we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. What's the goal of Christianity? To be more like God and less like this world. Like that's it, right? So here's the question I want to ask. Everybody just answer this with me. Is God generous? Okay, we've established that fact. Are you becoming more like God? That's the goal, right? It's not quite the resounding yes. We're all like, I want to, hopefully. Well, how do you know? One of the most tangible ways you know if you are becoming more like God is if you are becoming increasingly more generous. I just want to challenge you with that. Are you becoming more generous? The more like God you become, the more generous you will be. Now, here's the beauty of this. Here's the encouraging word of this. Every time you grow in your generosity, God's going to honor it and he's going to bless it. It's like he's seeing, oh man, I see, that's my boy. Way to go. I'm going to bless, I'm going to honor that blessing. Oh, that's my girl. Hey, I saw the way you did that. Blessing, blessing. That's the way this thing is set up. It's just the way it is. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 24, in the Message paraphrase, says this: the world of the generous gets larger and larger, but the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. Isn't this true? Don't we see this play out? Isn't this how it is with every story? You got Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim, and then contrasted with Ebenezer Scrooge, right? Ebenezer Scrooge is stingy, and his world is dark, it's dingy, it's small. Bob Cratchit, Tiny Tim, they don't have anything, and yet they have so much more, right? That's the world of the generous. Proverbs 11, verse 25 says this: a generous person will prosper, and whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Here's the beauty of this whole thing. We win when we're a blessing to others, because when we are a blessing to others, we will always be blessed. We will always be blessed. God is going to honor that. God's going to take care of that. This is true in every aspect of our lives. Our time, our talent, our treasure. The more you give away, the more God is going to give to you. It's true. Let me show you. It does relate to our finances as well. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul says this. He says, hey, I just want you to know, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. A lot of people say, oh, there's karma. And karma is just a reflection of the reality that God has instituted. This is the way God sets stuff up, that what you sow, you will reap. And when you sow something, you're going to reap that. You're going to sow generosity, you're going to reap generosity. If you're going to sow joy, you're going to reap joy. If you're going to sow kindness, you're going to reap kindness. It's just the way it is. And he says this, verse 7, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion. See, God's not after twisting your arm to give financially to him or to the kingdom or to his purposes. No, he doesn't want that. He wants your heart. He says, for God loves a cheerful giver. See, God's looking for the person who's like, man, I'm so blessed, and God's doing so many great things. I can't wait to bless that person. I can't wait to bless that ministry. I can't wait to give and be a part and see my resources make a difference for the kingdom of God. And he says, verse 8, and God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. How many think that sounds like a good deal? God's like, I'm going to take care of every aspect of your life. Verse 10, now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way. Everybody say every way. Every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through your generosity, it will result in thanksgiving to God. He's saying this: you can trust God with everything. You can trust God with your life. You can trust God with your time. You can trust God with your talent. Don't hold on to it. Let it go, in the words of Anna and Elsa, somebody. Let it go and see God bless you and take care of you. All right, so Scott, what's the deal? What are you asking us to do? Here's what I want to challenge you with. With every spiritual discipline we've talked about prayer. We've talked about make a prayer plan, make a prayer list. We've talked about Bible reading. Now here, get on a Bible reading plan. We've talked about community, get in a group. We've talked about work and rest, get rhythms. Set some disciplines. The same is true with your generosity. I want to encourage you to plan or schedule your generosity. The way you will grow is by making it a priority. Certainly with your finances, begin to schedule your generosity, plan your generosity. But I would say with your time as well. Like, how many of you know, like, we're never going to go on a missions trip until we plan and make it a priority of our lives. We're never going to go on an outreach until we make it a plan and a priority of our lives. We're never gonna go feed the homeless or sort clothes or sort food cans or go help people. We're never gonna do it until we plan to do it and make it the priority of our lives. I want all the blessing that God has for me. And God's saying this, when you live open-handed, when you just live generously, he's gonna take care of you. He's gonna take care of you. This is true with our time, it's true with our talent, and it's true with our treasure. This is where a lot of us struggle. And I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to lean into this. Lean into this, because the difference that it will make in your life is so substantial. In Malachi chapter 3, the Bible says this: bring the whole tithe, which is a tenth of all that you have, into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. So it's like, hey, bring a tenth of what you regularly get into the storehouse, that my house can be taken care of, that everybody will have what they need, and that the kingdom will move forward. Watch what he says. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I won't throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. And that sounds amazing. Everybody says they want that. Everybody, yes, I want more blessing. He's like, trust me with this and see what I will do. I want to challenge you. I want to encourage you. Take that step of generosity if you haven't taken it already. Take a step. Say, God, I'm going to trust you. Somebody's like, there's no way I could do it. Take a step. Take a step. Begin regularly giving a portion to the Lord. And here's the thing. God will take care of you. I've seen this time and time and time again in my own life and in so many people's lives of our church. A couple months ago, we had someone come up after church, and I'll have the worship team come. We'll get ready to close. But someone came up, and they were so excited about their story. They were so excited. They were like, man, I got to tell you the story. It's so amazing. And I know they'd been through a hard time financially, so I was very interested to hear what their story was. Basically, they had a lot of damage, flood damage in their house, and so they had this miracle provision, and so they told me all about it and how it was all tied to their giving. And so I asked them, I was like, hey, can you send that to me? I'm going to be talking about this. Can you send it to me? So they sent it this week. Let me just read this to you. Just to let this encourage you. But it says this: this last year was a struggle for our family. My wife was still finishing school and seeking full-time employment, and in April, due to heavy rainfall, we experienced several bouts of flooding into our home. It caused extensive damage, not only to the structure, but to household possessions as well. And unfortunately, our homeowner's insurance was no help, as we did not live in a floodplain and had no flood insurance. So after many contractor bids to rip out walls and flooring and electrical work, we finally settled on the work that needed to be completed. However, we were left with only a total for repairs that far exceeded our savings. And with only one income and one insurance to pay for no insurance to pay for structural damage, we didn't have the ability to pay for the repairs. We had insurance on our possessions, but that wasn't going to come anywhere close to the amount we needed. What we needed was God to take control. How many of you know we all find ourselves in that moment, right? We will find ourselves with our backs against the wall. We're like, God, I don't know what to do. I need you to do something. And man, they did the right thing. They said, so we began to pray, and we continued to tithe. After more than 6 months, our insurance finally agreed to pay us for our damaged possessions. But what we didn't expect was the amount. It far exceeded our expectations. But check this out. This is amazing. It covered the damages. It covered more than the structural damages and the possessions. But watch this. We got the checks, and we knew we needed to tithe on the check, which I think that's just amazing faith. When they're like, I'm tithing on everything I get. That's just incredible. But the real God moment came when we sat down and deducted the amount of the tithe from the checks that we had received. After giving our tithe, the amount left was exactly the amount we needed to pay for the repairs to the penny. Isn't that cool? He says, I ask, what is impossible with God? Nothing. We are so blessed. And I was talking to him this week, and he was just like, man, it's like God was just showing off. And I'm like, didn't that inspire you? Didn't that encourage you? It's like, yes. And how many of you know next time they go through a hard situation, they're going to go through it differently, because their hope isn't in themselves, it's in the Lord. Do you see that's the whole point of this? God's getting us to trust less in us and more in him. Now, here's the thing. Rocking chair. Do you think that when we get to the rocking chair, we're about to cross from this life to the next, we're wrapping up this life, do you think any of us are going to be like, man, I just have so many regrets. I just wish I would have bought more t-shirts at H&M. Man. I wish I would, at one time, I wish I would have got more Nike shoes. How many of you've never heard that from anybody in that? Have you, like, that's not what they're thinking, right? They're thinking, if all of this thing is true, I'm glad I invested in the life to come. Amen? Like, here's the deal. If all of this Christianity thing is true, if this is really what it's all about, living for God, letting God fill us so he can flow through us. If all of that's true, then there won't be $1 that we're I wish I would have just spent that more on me. We're going to be like, God, you take care of me. I'm taking care of others. I'm living the generous life. Amen? Here's what I want to do. I want to just ask you to stand. And we're just going to take a moment. And we're just going to worship. We're going to respond in worship. Before we do, I just want you to just take a moment right where you are with God and just say, God, I want to respond to you. Just bow your heads, close your eyes for a moment. Just respond to the Lord. Say, God, I want all that you have for me. Some of you right now in the presence of the Lord, you might just need to do some business with God. Say, Lord, I'm sorry for being stingy. And God, I want to move away from being stingy and I want to be generous. And just say, Lord, I don't want to hold on to my life and be miserable. I want to give it away. I know that I'm blessed, not just to be blessed, but to be a blessing. So take it all. Take it all, Lord. I don't want to hold back. My time, my talent, my treasure, it's yours. It's yours. Now, right where you are, would you lift your hands across this place and just in worship and surrender and say, Lord, I love you and I worship you and I give you my life. I give you my heart. I want to live for you, for your kingdom. I want to be the person that you've created me. I want to reflect you and your heart to as many people as possible. Let's take a moment. Let's just worship.
Have it all. Take all of me. Surrender my whole heart. Here I am. Have it all. Take everything. All my life is yours. Make me. Sing it again. Sing, have it all. Have it all. Take all of me. Surrender my whole heart. Here I am. Have it all. Take everything. All my life is yours. Make me. You are good. You are good in the valley. You're greater than the storm. I worship you, Jesus. You're where my help comes from. You are good in the valley. You're greater than the storm. I worship you, Jesus. You're where my help comes from. Have it all. Take all of me. Surrender my whole heart. Here I am. Have it all. Take everything. All my life is yours. Make me.
Let's give God one more round of praise. Amen. Such a great way to end a message series. Well, as our prayer team comes forward, if you have a prayer need, we love to pray with you. And also, as you head out, be sure to sign up for Connect Night tonight here at the North Campus, starting at 6 p.m. And we'll see you back next week for Vision Weekend. Go in God's grace.